got a bit of an issue. My UK backup server, which is my primary ZFS replication target for this down here, which is what stores all of my photos, drone footage, all of my irreplaceable data, of which there's about 7 or 8 terabytes. The ZFS array in that box in England decided this week it's had enough. I mean, fair enough. I immigrated from the UK about 5 years ago. And when I left my old server at my mother-in-law's house, including half a dozen 6 and 8 terabyte hard drives, which were in a ZFS array. They haven't seen any love. I mean, I replaced the motherboard a couple of years ago with an i5-8500 CPU for Plex transcoding, so I could watch live TV that way. But I hadn't touched the hard drives in a long time, and I think the oldest drive in that system is about 8 years old. So really, it's no surprise that they failed. And today's video, I'm going to pull some hard drives out of this box down here, which is Morpheus, my primary media server. Pull some drives out of that box, replace them. So I'm going to take some 14s out, put some 18s in, I think, and just take you along for the ride. It's not a tutorial video. It's just a kind of follow along with Alex whilst he rebuilds his server. So I hope you have fun. All right, so we're in the basement again. It's time to open up the server and pull out some drives, I think. And you can see I've got these lovely hot swap bays here in one of my rose wheel cases. So these are the 4 drives that I've got to pull out. I've finished the replication on them. I just need to cross-reference this with my little matrix here. So I love Obsidian. I keep all of my notes in Obsidian. And so for me, I'm going to be removing these 4 drives here and cross-referencing them with this. So let's find the first one. SYVG. Where's that one? That's in bay 9. So in theory, if we come over here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, come in here, hopefully SVG is going to be this guy. Hooray, the system works. Okay, so just 3 more to go. Y63JJC. 3JJC is, bay number 1. 3JJC, let's see if this one also worked out okay. Yes, okay, good. I can take notes. This is what we've learned here. The next one is TJ89. TJ8N actually is bay 5. Okay, so bay 5. This guy over here. TJ8N. Looking good. And then the last one is JJ8G, bay 12. Okay, here we go. I love these hop swap bays so much. JJ8G, perfect. Yeah, I mean, in the old days, this would have been pull the top off the server, pull it out of the rack and all the rest of it. And now here I am, just bop, 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 4 different drives. I've got a spare slot in here, so a little bit of expansion room. I think it's time to power the server back on now, though, and just check that I've only removed the 4 drives with the ZFS array on it that I want to move to England. So even though I have a keyboard and monitor here, this is really leftover. This is a hangover from the old days. Now I've got a Pi KVM up here, which does the 4-input switching, which I think I found out through TechnoTim that this particular HDMI switcher did the trick so well with it. It's just a Pi 4 sat back there, does the job beautifully. But my main server is just using a ASRock rack motherboard, and it has IPMI with a BMC chip built right into it. So you can see here I need to clean my screen a little bit, don't I? But you can see here I'm just waiting for it to boot. I imagine it's gonna fail on something if I screwed up removing the wrong drives from the wrong array or something like that. But I stopped all my containers before I started the migration, or started pulling these drives out anyway. So hopefully none of my applications will start up and cause me any issues. I think it's the first time I've shown you guys the actual rack properly. I mean, in my networking video, I did a little bit of stuff about it, but yeah, I've got a really big beefy set of UPSs down there from when I had a dual Xeon server that pulled sort of 300 plus watts or something like that. And so it's like the main UPS unit here, and then a battery backup that hooks into the side of that UPS unit. That's Morpheus, my primary media server there. I'm a little bit worried about this because I've got the 45 Drives Home Lab box on the way, and I have no idea where it's going to fit. I'm going to have to modify this temporary server rack that I built like 5 years ago. I'm going to have to modify it to fit a second server in. Woe is me, I know. But it looks like we booted, so let's jump into the console and take a look at Morpheus and see whether I've screwed anything up. All right, good news is I think we're okay. So Tank is the primary existing ZFS dataset that I have on this box. And then you can see here I've got only got 4 data disks right now and no parity for SnapRaid. That's only temporary, but you can see I've got 5 and 6 are missing. I've renamed the parity disk from parity to disk 2 to give me a bit more slack to move data around. But I think this means we're okay. I think I pulled out the right 4 drives. So all that's left to do now is undo the 4 screws which are in the side of each of these caddies, and then wrap them up very carefully and give them to my sister to take back to England. Right, so I'm upstairs in my little filming area that you've seen before. Under here, there's a bunch of mess, including my little demo Proxmox system and my little test box. And one of the things I like to do is just take these Easy Store drives, plug them in via USB. This is the moment after they've come out of the box. Plug them in and power them up, like so. And as you're doing so, you'll probably see some messages on the console of Proxmox. So if I do dmessage -w, we'll see that it's coming in and being detected by Linux. Very big device. I don't know why that just made me chuckle. So you can see that's been picked up as SDA. So what we can do fdisk-l just to verify that this is actually an 18 terabyte drive. So we can see 16.37 there. So, you know, the 1024 maths works out to be 16.3. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do, this is before we shuck the drives, we're going to want to do a smart CTL -t short and then /dev/SDA. This is just to do a very quick smart test on the drive, just to make sure it survived shipping okay and just catch any really basic errors in the hardware before we go ahead and actually shuck the drive and take it out of its case. It only takes a couple of minutes. You can probably hear it now. I don't know, I've got my 3D printer running as well, so you may just be able to hear that. But you can see this test only takes a couple of minutes. So I'll be right back. All right, so I think the smart test is finished now, so we can do a smart CTL TAC-A dev SDA, and this will just show us the output of that smart test. You can see, you can just have a quick look through some of the parameters that come out here. So you can see the power on time is 0, the start-stop count is 5. Everything there looks exactly like we'd expect, 24 Celsius. No CRC errors or anything like that. And the only smart test that's been done is the one we just did. So those are the things I typically look for, because these Best Buy Easy Store drives have a very mixed reputation. Sometimes people return these things and they swap different capacity drives into these cases for whatever reason. And so you've got to be a little bit careful and just check a couple of things before you go. And that's typically what I look for, is just, you know, the power on hours, CRC count, any reallocated sectors, and all those things look good here, and just no other smart tests. So I've got a couple more to burn through just with the quick smart tests, and then we'll move on to actually cracking these bad boys open. So I wanted to show you that shucking a hard drive, like one of these Western Digital Easy Stores, it's about a 4 or 5 minute process. It requires a little bit of brute force, but, you know, for the price we're paying for these drives and the amount of capacity we're going to get, it's worth it. So let's jump in. I've got a second cameraman today who's just going to jump in, it's my sister, and film some of the close-up bits. So the tools we're going to need: a T8 screwdriver, a crosshead Phillips type screwdriver, and some kind of flat-bladed implement just to get in between the casing over here. So if I take, this is one of the cases that I've already shucked, and you can see here, the inside, this is what the hard drive actually lives in, and then this is the outside, and they just sort of slide apart like a slidey thing. And So the idea here is that we're going to try and get in between all of these clips, in between these two halves of the plastic shell. So let's jump in. So cameraman, come in. The first thing we're going to do is just grab our flat blade screwdriver and just get in between the grey bit and the black bit there. And you'll hear the plastic clips start to break. This, if it's your first time, I guarantee you'll be like, this is too much force. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to break something. But I promise you, as long as you are forceful but careful, we'll actually be okay. So we've done the first few here. You can see they just break. They just break. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to worry about the enclosure's integrity, because you might be worried about the warranty of these things, but I've returned multiple previously shucked drives to Western Digital, and all they do is just send you back a replacement retail drive in this packaging. So they know it's a shucked drive, so I don't know why they bother. Can you not just sell me an 18 terabyte drive without all this hassle? Without the enclosure for the same price? Is that too much to ask? Apparently so. You can see that it just requires a good amount of force in here just to get the thing open. Now the thing you want to be careful of is, you can see in here the hard drive sort of occupies one side of the enclosure. So when you're digging around that side of the enclosure, be a little more careful. But other than that, it really is, you've got a lot of space to work with. Just jimmy it in there, break the clips, and then pull it apart. And voila, that's it. We have shucked a hard drive. Now, what's left to do next is, you can see here there are these 4 little rubber pins. We take our fingers and we just push and lift the hard drive up and out of the case, and literally throw that away because we're never going to use that again. And then take your T8 screwdriver and remove these 4 little rubber boys from the side of the hard drives, like so. And then once that's done, all we've got left to do is remove the USB to SATA little circuit board that's on here using our crosshead screwdriver. So just put that in there like so. Remove that screw. This wants to slide this way, because if we actually look on the inside here, it's just a SATA connection. And then this little plastic guy, which I don't really know what it's for, comes out, and that's it. We have a shucked hard drive. And it really is as simple as that. 5 minutes or less, and you should be able to shuck a hard drive. So now we've got these out of the case, it's probably time we went and back down to the basement again and put them in my server and started my whole new hard drive ritual burn-in pre-clear thing that was born from my days with Unraid. Back down here in the basement again, it's time to load up Obsidian once more and just look at the various different drive bays that we have available. So I mean, if I jump around the front here on the server, we can see that we've got plenty of drive bays available. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 empty drive bays, which is more than enough for what we have here, the 3 that we're going to add. So I'm just going to add 1 to each bank of 4. I think I'll just put them in bays 1, 5, and 9. Come on, brain. All right, so let's put the first one in here. Really very simple with this Rosewheel case. Make sure that you've got the pins, the data connections and all that on the outside edge. Line up the holes on the side there. They're nicely lined up. And then just grab a screw, or 4 of them, and put them in the hole. When you've done that, and put the drive back in the server. So back in a sec. Right then, once the screws are in the drive, the next thing to do is just note down the serial number, so M6HS. I'm going to put that in slot 1. I'll fill in the drive model a bit later once it's actually connected in from Linux. So you can see I'm going to put that in bay 1. Now the next thing I like to do is just bring up dmessage again, just to make sure that the drive is seen by the host operating system. So in this case, I'm just SSH'd into Morpheus, which is this guy down here. And then I think it's just a case of, it's quite tricky to do this kind of stuff one-handed, you know. Just slide this in like that. You see the lights come on, that's a good sign. Whilst we wait for that to spin up. Fingers crossed, it shows up in D message any second. I can hear the drive doing its kind of chunter. There we go, excellent. Okay, so we can see we've got a direct attached ATA WDC 180, so an 18 terabyte drive. Excellent. Okay, so now it's just a case of repeating that 2 more times for the other 2 more drives I'm going to add this afternoon. Right, now one interesting thing I've just run into is that these 3 sets of 4 drives, so this bank of 4 and this bank of 4 are both going into my HBA controller. This bank of 4 is going directly into the motherboard, and for whatever reason this SATA controller doesn't seem to be supporting hot swapping drives in the Linux kernel. So if I start adding drives, sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't, and it took me a while to figure out that it wasn't actually the hard drive, it's just the SATA port itself. So if I go over to this window and run sudo snapraid smart, it actually prints out a really nice little table here of all the drives that it can see. So you can see I've got a pair of 18s in here, right? You can see I've got the pair there, but where's the third one? And it's not showing up. So I'm going to bet that if I reboot Morpheus now, that it's going to pick up that third drive. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. And there we go, children. Isn't hardware just a wonderful fickle beast sometimes? You can see we've got 118 there and 2 more just up here. So sometimes, you know, it just really depends on what the SATA controller you've actually got the things connected to and how it's wired up internally as to how it's going to perform for you. So don't assume you can do the hot swap D message thing. As I've just shown, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. All right, so now that we've got the drives installed at last, after that last reboot, I think we're all good to go. It's time to burn them in, and this is a process that can take a week or 2. So let's jump back upstairs where it's not a dusty, horrible, unfinished basement, and get that process started. So you probably know from listening to my podcast, self-hosted, or watching one of my previous YouTube videos, that when I get a new hard drive, I like to do what's called a burn-in process. In other words, I run bad blocks across that drive for, I think it's 4 passes. So it reads and writes data 4 entire times across the surface of the whole drive. And the reason for doing that is just to weed out the weaklings early in their life before I've put any data on those drives. So I'm just going to walk you through that process real quick because I'm going to be doing it anyway, so I may as well put it in the video. So here's my workstation over here. If you want to follow along, there is a link in the description to this article on Perfect Media Server where I detail the entire process. Now there is a script here from a guy called Spearfoot on GitHub that I used to do this process. It's really simple, but you know, if you want it, there'll be a link, like I say, down in the description. So I'm going to SSH into Morpheus first of all, and then I'm going to create a tmux session so that these jobs can continue running in the background. Now it's really important that you do this on a server with a UPS because an 18 terabyte drive is probably going to take about 10 to 12 days of continuous writing. It's a very stressful activity for the drive, like I say, so it weeds out the weaklings really early in the process. So if I have a look at here, yes, I thought I did. I've got a disk burn-in directory just here from when I've done this in the past. So I forget the exact syntax, so let's just do this together. Yes, must be run as root, good. So let's do disk burn-in and look at the options here. So to run it in destructive mode, which is what we want on a specific drive, this is how you do it. We don't want to do the dry run, we just want to jump straight into it. So let's identify the drives that we want to use. So I use snapraid smart because, like I said earlier, it prints out this really lovely little table that we can use. Now snapraid smart shows me that we've got dev SDH, SDT, and SDA as our drives to use. So if we look at the top here, the command we're going to do is this one. So I'm going to run the script of disk burnin.sh and then -f dev SDA. Now it's going to do a few things to start with. It does a short smart test, then does a long smart test, then it starts doing the 4 passes with bad blocks, and then it does another long smart test at the end. And this takes several days. Now, with tmux, the easiest way to do multiple things all at once is just to split it into multiple panes. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now with a Control B and then a %sign, which splits the screen in half. So I'm going to change to be root again. Did I want to do that? Probably not. I think it was in this directory disk burning, yeah. So that's where I want to be. Now I've already forgotten what the other drives were, so SnapRaid Smart. I did SDA already, so let's work from the bottom up. SDT next. Disk burning -F, was it? God, my memory is so bad. -F, SDT, there we go. Now I'm going to split this again in half with a Control B, and this time I'm going to do the double quotation marks. Might be in different spots depending if you're what keyboard layout you're on. But again, let's go into the disk burning and let's do a sudo SnapRaid Smart. Just to remember what the last one was, SDH. It's really important that you do make, triple sure that you've got the correct drive selected, because this is a destructive operation and you will lose data if you aren't careful. So let's change into the disk burning directory again, become root once more, do the disk burning -F dev SDH, and there we go. And then just in this other screen over here, you move between the different panes with Control B and then O, and then Control B and then O, and it's a bit fiddly, but And so the last thing I like to do, I've got a little bash alias that I have of HD temp. The bash aliases don't pass through to watch. So if I just come in here and then just pick all of my drives, this allows me to do, I'll just become root for this at the beginning, HDD temp, and I'll do LMNOPQRST. I remember we were all the way up to T, weren't we? So if I do this, it's going to give me a list, and then I put the word watch in front of it. It's just going to run this command every 2 seconds, and then every time I jump into this tmux session, I've got drive 1, drive 2, drive 3, and you can see that drive 1 and drive 2 now have both completed their 2-minute short smart tests, and I get a little temperature readout of what's going on throughout the rest of the system as well. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the little vlog video, the vlog style video today. I am going to probably follow up with you in a couple of weeks when this has all finished. So here we are on November 4th. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my podcast at selfhosted.show. And until next time, I've been Alex from KTZ Systems.